All right, you ready to hear me absolutely nail this T-Bates impression?
Oh yeah.
I am not doing that, but I will summarize the entire major in just 2 words. Buenos partidas.
Buenos partidas is definitely right.
Buenos partidas, even though I don't think they've kept that going pretty much since
I don't think so.
I mean, we don't usually get to see the game chats actually. You know,
Yeah.
for the sake of lore, I'm gonna say they type Buenos partidas after every game. But the 2 stories coming out of the major, just in case you live in a hole and for some reason listen to us instead of watching professional Rocket League. The 2 major stories were, oh my god, G2 were insane and T-Bates was actually right for once. And what the heck is Coach Nick feeding the 3 players of Queso? Because both of those runs were just absolutely insane, but the tournament all around was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, the gameplay throughout the entire tournament was so good. Every team came to play, and from the first series to the last, it was a competition, and I enjoyed every single match of it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get through these appetizers quick so we can dive headfirst into the meal that was LAN.
Yes.
First thing up is business. We make a lot of empty promises. I think. Well, I wouldn't say empty. We hold most of them, maybe. But a couple weeks ago, we made hardcore promises that we would be doing a top 50 player tier list rankings sort of thing, and we'd be doing it live on Twitch. And so that is what we're going to do next Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern. We will be well, we're going to see if doing tier lists is easier than player rankings, because player rankings was a terrible exercise.
It made everything hurt.
Yeah. But we'll be streaming that live on Twitch. I assume we haven't thought about it at all. It'll most likely be on Colin's Twitch, which is C_Lion7, or maybe at some point we'll make a Talkin Carball Twitch. Who knows? All that information will be forthcoming. But next Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern. What news do we have this week?
A surprising amount in roster moves, kind of. Vitality announced Farah as their coach. I guess they got rid of their old coach at some point. I don't know.
Rip Mount.
Yeah, I don't remember that happening, but
I am actually super hype about this. We didn't really talk about it much when Farah retired, but he's such a nice guy and one of the more like mature and articulate people we have in the Rocket League scene. So just keeping him around and having him in a coaching role, I think is going to do wonders, especially for the French community. So I can't wait. We'll see what sort of he can bring on the field in terms of results, but it definitely shows that Vitality are willing to make changes at this point.
Yes, and they are targeting Rodosin to replace Fairy Peak.
It's pretty heavily rumored at this point. I think I've almost seen like that it's signed. So probably in the next couple of weeks that'll be in the news segment.
Yes. Nimt over in APAC North announced Maru as a member of their roster. Maru was on the Tokyo Verdy team that went to the fall major.
Yeah. And that's just kind of hype just because it's more of like a dispersion of the top tier talent in APAC. And the more players, now there's 6 players from APAC North who all have LAN experience. And the more we can sort of spread the love and rise up all the competition there, the better and the better performances we're going to see.
Yeah. And then during the LAN, there are a few announcements. Landon was announced as the spring major. Is it the same arena as the original?
Same arena.
Same arena. Cover Box Arena holds over 6,000 people, which is a couple hundred more than YouTube Theater. and it is June 29th to July 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely mark your calendars for this one. This is going to be probably the best audience we've ever had in Rocket League. It's going to be even more people than the last time they held it at the Copper Box. And the British people, they just bring a different type of energy than we do in NA. There's going to be songs and all sorts of fun stuff, not just people randomly cheering. So I am beyond hype for this. Not to mention we get all the British casters will actually be able to attend to this time.
Yes. And then the World Championship was also announced, going to be in Fort Worth, outside of Dallas, at Dickies Arena, which holds 14,000 people, over twice as many as Copper Box. Wild card is the 4th to the 7th in August, and the championship is the 9th to the 14th.
Dude, I am 14,000 people at a Rocket League event.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And I don't know how many of the days they're going to sell tickets for, because, you know, obviously with this one, it was only for the last 2 days, but that is 10-ish, not quite, days of Rocket League.
One day off in the middle.
Yeah, a Rocket League going on. That's going to be so hype. And just like even having that sort of like materialize as something that, like, obviously we've known this entire time there's going to be a world championship, but just the thought of that actually happening is so hype.
Yeah. I think I saw there's limited tickets for the wild card.
Okay.
Wild card section, and then I guess the full 14,000 for the last 5 days.
Makes sense.
What else? What other news we have? We have the CRL World Championship. That is a LAN going to be part of DreamHack Dallas, June 3rd through the 5th. I assume that includes the new European CRL, or is that only for next year?
I really don't know. I didn't have the audio on when that announcement played, and I forgot to actually check. And there was no article for it listed on Twitter. So, I mean, it says World Championship in the title.
It does say World Championship. It does have Europe.
It does have Europe. Let's go.
Yes. Wait. Yes.
You know who's coming over to take that
very
trophy?
Confused by these. Oh, wait. Here we go. Yes, it does have Europe and North America.
Let's go. You know who's gonna be taking that chip?
Who?
Hailing from Germany. The man himself, Calix.
I'm looking at the European rosters.
Yeah.
Tigray is playing Ethan, the 0-0 Nation coach.
Oh, that's lit. I mean, to be honest, like Calix and Tigray are about as high tier as anyone we've ever
Calix
had play CRL and NA.
Hamburger Hi Ahoy Boys. Calix's team.
My favorite college.
Yes. That's all the names I recognize. There's a lot of red links here on Wikipedia.
Yeah, the CRL scene is just forming in Europe, so
yeah,
gotta give them a break.
We have some sad news after Sandrock was unable to compete in the Winter Major. The organization has suspended all operations. They're releasing the roster after this was announced after Incivic said he was stepping down as CEO. So all the players are released. Mitz, their coach, put out a statement today saying he was no longer going to be with the team. Yeah, I would expect them to get picked up soon.
Oh yeah, 100%. And in the statement that Incivic released, it kind of seemed like they were trying, like the players were trying to get a new org. I don't know. It was all very confusing and really sad, especially in the context of them not being able to compete in the major. But I am just like begging and praying that Incivic stays involved in the scene, because he pretty much single-handedly has supported and helped grow the Middle Eastern scene into what it is. And he in general just is like given so much money to so many different people in the Rocket League community, and made a lot of people's dreams come true. So he's a figurehead I would really hate to lose out on.
Absolutely.
And if he's listening, he can sponsor this podcast.
I don't think he's listening.
It's all right, buddy. I know you're out there.
In other Middle Eastern news, the Ultimates have parted ways with their roster of their players that I don't want to try to say. I guess M7SN and Zizonix.
Names I had never had to say out loud before now, so I appreciate the bravery of you.
Zizonix I can hit. AMS works. I don't know what to do with the 7 in the middle of the name.
M7S7. I think you told me that they were already linked to be like one of the players tweeted something out about being rumored to another organization, or am I making up stuff in my brain?
My brain is jelly, so maybe I said something, but I don't remember it.
Oh, they'll probably get picked up because they're a top 3 team in the Middle East, and they stand a shot of making it to that World Championship wildcard slot.
Absolutely, 2 spots there in the wildcard, 3 spots for Middle Eastern if whoever goes to spring has an insane event.
Yeah, fingers crossed. They kind of got gypped of the chance to earn that spot. Yes. paint all around.
Actually, just for let's see how their rankings are looking right now. So the wild card spots are set.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there's 3 NA, 3 EU, 2 OCE, 2 SAM, 1 from each APAC, 2 MENA, and 2 SSA. Those are set, guaranteed.
All right.
For the automatic spots, those are up for grabs. As of right now, 2 NA teams are clinched and 1 EU team are clinched. So minimum, we have 5 NA teams and 4 EU teams at the Worlds.
Okay.
So first seed EU and NA are tied. 3 is NA2. And then so the 4th spot through the 8th spot are currently up for grabs. And in order, they are NA3, EU2, EU3, NA4, and SAM1 and EU4 are tied. So the way things stand at the moment, I don't know how tiebreakers work, but we would have 7 NA teams, 6 EU teams, and 3 SAM teams at Worlds.
I think you hit the nail on the head.
But that 8th spot is pretty up for grabs. There are 4 regions really fighting for that spot within 100 points. SAM has 520. EU4 is 520. OCE1 is 440. And MENA is at 420. So all four of those regions are fighting for that last spot.
Yeah. And the really crappy thing is the only chance OCE has had 4 chances at making runs in these tournaments, and MENA has only had 1 chance.
Yeah.
And they hit top 8. So they got some points for this major just by default, but they didn't get their fair shot. And obviously Sandrock isn't going to get punished because they're going to make it no matter what. They're the only team that's clinched their regional wild card, but it does suck that they can't. They stand much less of a chance of bringing both Ultimates and Falcons with them, or maybe Sights. Who knows how the spring's going to shake up over there? But
and it puts them into the wild card instead of directly into that final. Playoffs.
Yeah. Well, hopefully wherever they end up can figure out a good visa situation, and we can see them in the spring.
Yes. With that, let's get into LAN.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
I guess
Winter major.
How do we
Los
want to do this? Group
Angeles.
by group?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right. Start off with Group A. Team Queso demolished Detonator.
Yeah.
First game up. That happened. They outscored them 15-1.
Yeah.
For the other first game, we had V1 versus FaZe. And I want to play a little game here with you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a game we've talked about playing on this podcast, and we've never done it because it's not really a good idea. Called the name game, where we give a name and you try to guess what player it is.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go backwards.
Okay.
Do you know what Beast Mode's real first name is?
I have no idea.
It is Landon. Landon. And he showed it.
He showed it.
Landon Konerman. Highest octane rated player in the entire tournament.
You see, I knew
V1
he had
sweeps FaZe.
I knew he had LK at the end of his Twitter handle, and I was gonna guess Liam, but that's way better. And you're so right, especially in this first series, in terms of like star power. Beast Mode shone brighter as a star than anyone on FaZe did, marked by that game 1 winner where he whiffed the wide open shot and then immediately recovered off the backboard in one of the craziest plays I've ever seen. Absolute roller coaster ride. But once V1 had that momentum, they didn't stop, and they showed the ice too.
Absolutely. I'm a little ahead, but V1 went 9-1 in the group stage. After in the round 2, they took down Queso 3-1. I think nerves were hitting Queso a little bit early in this series.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, they shook those off, but I think they looked a little nervous in this series. What are my comments on this group? I said Rise best player on Queso today after day 1. That carried throughout the tournament for the most part, as he looked like the best player in the world at some parts.
Only ever really getting passed by Joyo at moments.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Because why not?
Yeah, so V1 beat FaZe, or V1 beat Queso there. FaZe versus Detonator.
Oh boy.
FaZe won. It was a little closer than it probably should have been.
A little closer than any APAC team had ever done against FaZe Clan, the team that literally rolls like the 6th best team in NA.
Yeah.
What this was I think this is the strangest result of the entire weekend.
Yeah, so first game goes to overtime, FaZe wins it. Detonator wins game 2. The first ever series win by an APAC team at LAN.
So
FaZe wins game 3, 2-1, still close, and then FaZe decided they wanted to play Rocket League again and Braziled them for game 4.
Yeah, as FaZe is known to do sometimes, to sort of turn it on and off just a little bit. But you know, they really struggled with that Detonator first play style. I don't have anything else to say there.
I don't know what happened in that one. But Detonator absolutely came out to play. They put up a fight. They took V1 to an overtime in one of their games. They definitely came to play. They did only score 2 goals outside of the FaZe series, and scored 6 against FaZe.
I mean,
But
considering
that's just FaZe defense for you.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fashion in which Detonator qualify, which involved them not even necessarily having the requirements to make the APAC qualifier and then barely clutching that out, the fact that they did put up that performance was awesome to see. And I think they had, like, from their player cams, they had like the best mentals possible, where they were just kind of there to have fun and learn and grow. And everything I heard was that they were scrimming a ton. So I think that this is going to be a huge learning experience, not only for them but also for the region as they go back to scrims back home and competitions.
Absolutely. I think every chance these teams have to play with the rest of the world helps them out, especially for like the teams that can't, that it's harder for them to play with other regions like Oceania and APAC are kind of so far out there. They're kind of by themselves, whereas like Sam and Middle East can play on North America and Europe servers.
Mm-hmm.
So they really have to take advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, I think it was Calm actually. Like after the groups wrapped up, he had a tweet basically saying, thanking a lot of the minor region teams for like V1 success, just because they had been like scrimming against a lot of the minor region teams and learning a lot and everything. So it sounds like they really took advantage of that opportunity. And obviously, like there's lots of pieces. I mean, a lot of these smaller regions, they develop sort of like very unique play styles that comes when you sort of live in that bubble that you're talking about. So boot camps in general are just an amazing opportunity for people to up their game.
Yes. And then to finish off this group, the probably most exciting series of the group, Team Queso versus FaZe. This
Banger
was
series.
banger series. I remember it being banger. I don't remember exactly what happened. It's so long ago.
So many
this
goals.
was the Joyo series.
Yeah.
This was the Joyo series. He went nuts.
No one scored fewer than 2 goals in any game.
Yeah. Joyo almost had a 1.5 octane rating.
Jesus Christ. That's insane.
It was nuts. Yeah, he went off. This went to game 5. Queso showed the game 5. Ice got the win. FaZe Clan, they started off really bad against FaZe and Detonator. Looked better in this game. Still didn't look 100%. They turned it around the next day. Or the next 2 days.
When they played again.
Yes.
But this Queso series was not, like, you're right, it wasn't 100%, but it wasn't a bad look for them. This was Queso rebounding after their nervy series against V1, and this was FaZe sort of regaining. Both teams played up much closer to their full potential than we had seen all weekend, and then we got to see both teams actually hit their ceiling in the coming days.
Yeah. So as everyone predicted, the final results for Group A were V1 on top, Team Queso, FaZe, and then Detonator.
Of course. With Detonator getting a game against FaZe, of course.
Yes. Group B. Had some tiebreakers over here, but to start off, Energy started off flat, losing to Furia 3-1.
Yeah, this was like the perfect Furia series where if you give them space and you don't come out sharp, they will punish you. And that's exactly what NRG did. They looked asleep. They weren't really defending their backboard fully, and they are going to double tap all over you.
Yes, and Furia came out hot.
Mm-hmm.
Endpoint beat Renegades 3-1. Not the most shocking result, but they were close games. Renegades took one, and then another went to overtime.
Yeah, pretty much what you would have expected from those two teams. I don't think that, like, Renegades are the sort of team that are gonna sneak. They had the potential to sneak a series away against a team that has like a lot of volatility and like maybe is like a little disunified, like maybe like FaZe or something like that. But Endpoint's just not that team.
Or Furia.
Or Furia, exactly.
Yeah, round 2, Energy bounced back a little bit, sweeping Renegades.
Yeah, Energy aren't that team either.
Yeah, no, they're not that team. Furia continues their hot streak, taking out Endpoint. So now they've beaten Endpoint and NRG. They are absolutely primed to win the group, right?
Of course. There's no way they don't clutch that out.
Yeah, I mean, they took out the 2 hard teams. They just gotta beat Renegades. What happened in the Renegades Furia series?
The OCE curse happened. Sam will never, ever, ever, ever beat OCE. no matter how good Sam looks and no matter how bad OCE looks, this is the one constant in the entire world.
Yeah, Renegades swept Furia, giving hope to Endpoint to win, or really giving hope to the Energy Endpoint series, which went to Game 5. At this point, going into Game 5, we knew that Renegades had beaten Furia. Energy was in the midst of a reverse sweep going into Game 5, and whoever won that series had a shot at winning the group as a whole. Energy did not clutch it out. Endpoint won it 2-0 after a back and forth series. Setting up two tiebreaker matchups, Endpoint versus Furia for the 1 seed, and Energy versus Renegades to fight off elimination. Energy swept Renegades again, and Furia beat Endpoint 3-1 again.
Yeah, I think that honestly, the Furia Endpoint tiebreaker might have been, this is kind of a hot take, might have been the most shocking result of the group for me. Because I feel like sometimes with teams that come out hot and are, super mechanical, like they can catch a team off guard once, but that doesn't usually happen twice, especially when Endpoint have like a night to review. But it just shows just how good Furia are and that there is sort of like a greater depth to their play and their adaptability that they were able to 3-1 Endpoint again. So I just wanted to give them props because I 100% was picking Endpoint to take that second series, especially after Furia absolutely tossed the bag.
Yeah, but great result for Furia, getting a top 6, the best result a SAM team has ever gotten in a tournament. And at this point, Endpoint kind of like boomed. Like they did not have the standard Endpoint mentality here.
Mm-hmm.
They looked a little boomed after that series. But yeah,
I think was kind of like a theme for like teams that lost their groups in the final games. Like it's kind of facts that like you're playing for the tournament. Like Endpoint were playing for their tournament right there, just like Energy were playing for their tournament in that round 3. Just the difference between winning your group and losing your group quite literally dictates your chance of winning.
Unless you're Team Queso.
They still, yeah.
It changed it, but
yeah. But you're right. Endpoint looks shattered, and we'll see as we move on. Teams that lost that sort of tiebreaker just seemed absolutely gutted.
Yes. So final results were Furia, or as the legend Shamiko, who did a great job this weekend, says Furia. Endpoint, Energy, and then Renegades.
My favorite player is Yo-Yo.
Yeah, Yo-Yo. Group C technically went chalk, right? Oh no, it didn't, because Team Secret is a higher seed than EG, but it went almost chalk according to seeding. G2 beat Evil Geniuses off rip, which, as we said last week, if G2 beats Evil Geniuses, they're gonna do well in the tournament. They did all right.
Yeah, do we want to say well?
Did they did okay?
Did they meet expectations? I don't know. That's a conversation for later on.
Yeah, we'll talk about G2. BDS swept Team Secret. No shockers there. G2 then almost got reverse swept by Team Secret.
Oof.
But did pull it off. At the same time, BDS had a close one against EG, but they won that, setting up the designed round 3 of G2 versus BDS for the win, Secret versus EG to advance. Evil Geniuses took care of business against Team Secret, and in an absolutely insane Game 5 4-minute overtime, G2 fought off the BDS reverse sweep to claim Group C.
Yeah, that was an insane series. And as we talk about all the time, Monkey Moon most likely being the best player in the world, only coming into question after BDS's results. But when you look at this tournament, you can't really fault him. But in this series against G2, he was exactly that. No one in the world has better reads off the backboard in the corner than him. He is an absolute menace on the field. But G2 were able to weather that through some sweet dimes by Atomic and some ice cold shooting by JNaps. It was a 6-6 series.
I would argue that when he's on, there's one player that can match Monkey Moon's backboard reads.
Who's
and
that?
It's Mr. Knapman on the other side of the field. That guy was slotting everything.
Yeah, it's a different kind of double tap.
It is. But he scored 7 goals in this series. His other 2 teammates had 4 combined. JNaps was the best player on G2 in the group stage.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, a lot of G2's success came down to clutch shooting, to fight off reverse sweeps. They kept kind of putting themselves in that scenario, but they could always lean on him, no matter the situation.
Yeah, and Monkey Moon with 90% or 89% goal participation on the entire weekend, or the entire week. You got to look at his teammates for why they didn't do as well as they hoped.
Yeah, that was a completely ludicrous statistic. And I'm not saying this in terms of like pointing fingers, because it's the situations are always like more complicated than just purely that. But Mark, in that game 5 against G2, missed a pretty big shot, and it's sort of like what we've talked about a little bit with BDS, where like the gameplay like can still reach that same height, but the mental doesn't seem to be anywhere near where it was in RLCSX. Maybe that was because they were winning everything in RLCSX, but afterwards, sort of like the same thing you were talking about with Endpoint, Mark seemed shattered, and like the tweets afterwards did not seem like the type of communication that's coming from a team that's going to bounce back.
Yeah, and Mark had the 3rd lowest Octane reading of the entire tournament, only above Burn and Olpix of Detonator.
That causes me so much pain. Oh God, BDS. Well, we got more to talk about with them.
Yes, we do. So final standings for Group C were G2, BDS, Evil Geniuses, and Team Secret, who I do want to shout out, played really well. Were my comment. I think I said that these 2 groups, or everyone in this group, was kind of really playing well on day 1. Yeah, Team Secret played well for their most of their first land outside of Math, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but both Sad and Knight, the 2 land rookies, are absolutely cracked. Not that Math isn't, but those 2. I think that this team will be giving Fury a run for that top spot in SAM throughout the rest of RLCS 3. And EG put up a heck of a fight against both. Well, not both. They put up a heck of a fight against G2, and they took care of business against a really good Team Secret side. I was very impressed with them.
Yeah,
especially absolutely. The mental.
And we'll see the mental of Evil Geniuses later on. But Group D, obviously only 3 teams in this group without Sandrock, so all 3 teams advanced.
Sad.
Pretty much the group came down to the first game, and Dig blew it.
A theme.
Yes, Dig got reverse swept on the backs of an absolutely peaking Arsenal.
Yeah.
His bumps in this game were nuts.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like there was a very key moment when Arsenal came alive and the entire series turned on its head. When he got confident and he got loud, just the entire dynamics changed, and pretty much every moment after that, Space Station were the better team. But he had some insane aerial bumps in the series and was just a menace.
Yeah. Daniel was quiet in the group stage as a whole. That did not last to the entire tournament. He stepped it up later. But yeah, G2 pretty much secured this group on day one, beating Dignitas. Both teams went 3-1 versus KCP, another team who didn't have the highest expectations, but came out and fought, winning in the 3 series they played. They won 4 games total, which is very respectable against the kind of quality opponents they were against.
Yeah, they played tight against both Dig and Space Station, and a lot of times with minor region teams, you sort of expect them to come out scared. But in both those series, they took the first game and sort of put the pressure on their opponents, who, unfortunate for them, were sort of able to step up to that. But they definitely showed a lot of promise, kind of in a similar way to that Team Secret did.
Yeah. So yeah, Space Station 1, Dig 2, Pioneers 3, and that'll take us to the playoffs.
Woo-wee.
So our lower round 1 was still in the studio, not at YouTube Theater. So we can go through that first.
Important note.
Start at the bottom, I guess. They kind of played these in a weird order, didn't they?
Yeah, that was the last series. I think first was Endpoint Phase. I don't know.
Endpoint Phase played, and then Queso
Queso.
Energy, and then BDS, and then Dig. I guess we can go in that order. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Endpoint looked boomed.
Yep.
Phase kind of shook off the rust, and they played well. Cypical, well, I guess Cypical started to improve in that Queso series at the end. I think he had a good series against Endpoint too.
They all did, to be honest.
They all did.
Like,
yeah.
It was pretty balanced throughout, and just FaZe looked to be the better team in that moment. Like you said, I mean, Endpoint scored 2 goals the whole series and just kind of flumped out of the tournament. Real sad.
Yeah. They looked boomed throughout the entire thing, to be honest. This was kind of over before it started.
And back-to-back lands where they get bounced by FaZe.
Yeah, tough. I just think Endpoint really relies so hard on their offense through Seiko.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not a top 5 player in the world 100% of the time, they can struggle to score.
Yeah, it kind of like a lot of like I don't know. I hate to say this because I think there's so much more value that a player can bring than like purely mechanics, and like I don't want to like overemphasize that, but it feels like teams that only have like one extremely like mechanical like playmaking person just kind of like are going to be doomed to sort of like fluctuate more, just like you said, because then it's just reliant on the one person to really create your opportunities. And like I think the best sort of model of sort of like the benefit it can bring of bringing in someone else of that caliber is V1, where I think about what V1 used to be and what Endpoint are now in very similar ways. And I wonder if Endpoint could take a step above by making a roster change.
It'd be so sad though. Such a fun roster. Good people.
It would, but can you really see them doing like the best case scenario I can see for them is making top 8?
Yeah. Yeah, they just can't. I think Rogue League has improved.
Mm-hmm.
Even since the fall split, people are getting better.
Yeah.
And Endpoint doesn't seem to be matching that improvement.
Yeah, and it's like it's not that I don't think like Wave and Metza belong in RLCS because they 100% do. I just don't know if they like that. And it's not the question that they belong in RLCS. They're making land, like of course, but uh, they're not. I don't think they're going to win championships on the same team together. But I think they both could with the right pieces around them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Next series. We'll just go down the list. Team BDS versus Pioneers. BDS won the first 2 games. Looks to be in control. And then Pioneers were like, let's have winning game 3 in overtime, winning game 4 3-1, and forcing a game 5. Unfortunately for them, BDS, they weren't going to get reverse swept by Pioneers no matter how off they looked. They took care of business game 5, but huge props to Pioneers for putting up a fight. And I think at the end of the series, BDS just kind of looked relieved more than anything.
Yeah, 100%. I think that I think that they thought after, especially if they won game 2 5-0, they could take their foot off the gas and just coast through the end of the series. And I think they kind of lost control of their car there. I think it started to fishtail a little bit. And I think they were very happy to find that they could regain control.
Yes. I don't have anything else to say about this one.
Nah.
Let's go to the next one, which was possibly the biggest series of the tournament so far.
Yeah.
We have NA1 versus EU1 to go to YouTube Theater. One of these teams was not even going to make it to play in front of LAN or to play in front of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for all the NRG fanboys, they did not get it done.
Nah, man. Queso are just way too good. The first 2 days, energy looked pretty poor. Aside from playing Renegades, they looked good. They looked well prepped for Queso. They looked like they were playing like their game well. But they just. I mean, you can say what you want about the format and bad luck, like pulling Queso this early, but they got third in their group. That's just the nature of how it goes. And they drew what very well could be the best team in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to feel bad for a team for going out early when the only team they beat is Renegades.
Mm-hmm.
When you're, supposed to be winning tournaments, you got to do better than that off the start.
Yeah. I think the only unfortunate thing is before like last week, I'm pretty sure I said that there are like 3 teams I can see going on a lower bracket run. It was Queso, BDS, like I mean making grand finals from the lower bracket.
Yeah.
It's Queso, NRG, and BDS, and they bumped into each other right at the start.
Yeah. All 3 of those teams in the lower bracket.
Yeah. Not how I thought that would go. But
our top 3 teams in the world.
Yeah.
From before the tournament.
Nailed it.
Yes. But you know how I said, for day 1, Rise was the best player on Queso.
Mm-hmm.
And then against FaZe, it was the Joyo game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this series, Vatira was the best player on Queso. And that just kind of shows how dangerous Queso is. Where even if one player is a little off, they have 2 more that are just insanely good and can carry the squad. Joyo didn't have his best series in this one, but Vatira absolutely, this might have been his best series of the tournament. I mean, Queso's just insanely clutch. They've won so many elimination games in this game or in this tournament. So yeah, they won game 1, lost game 2 and 3 in overtime, and then won games 4 and 5, with 5 being an absolute smacking. Yeah.
Yeah. All wind was out of NRG sales at that point. And I think that at a certain mark during that game 5, they all realized that they weren't going to get to play in front of the fans. And that was a real sad moment.
Yeah. But, they can blame the RLCS referees for calling back a goal.
A well-earned kickoff goal.
Well-earned kickoff goal. That NRG immediately scored after anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that controversy whatsoever.
There's no controversy.
Yeah.
Moving on. NRG is done. Queso moves on to the second round. Dig versus Evil Geniuses.
Oh, God.
And stop me if you've heard this before. Dig blew it.
This was so sad, man.
Evil
This was
Geniuses didn't even score a goal in the first 2 series. Dig won 2-0 and then 1-0. And then Evil Geniuses won 6-0 and 5-0. Before game 5, we had a close overtime, or a close game 5 going to overtime, and EG scored 5 seconds into overtime to knock Dig out before the fans.
Yeah, it's like it's becoming a bit of a Reddit narrative at this point, but I really do think Dig need a coach, a parent, anyone who's standing there who's just sort of like a fourth perspective who's not a player to just sort of like help focus and help them just sort of like step away from like the difficult moments, just because this just got out of hand so fast. And especially when you consider it in the context of what happened with Semper last time, where it felt like they beat themselves again there in a game 7. They just they need a little bit more support than what they're getting.
Yeah, and Dig has some consistency issues. Obviously, we've talked about how much we respect Jory as a player, and he has one of the highest peaks in the world. He looked lost in this series. He looked like he didn't know where he was supposed to be. Another point on Dig that maybe a coach would help is they seem to be more on vacation at the LAN than, doing their job. There's a post on Reddit of their hours in the last 2 weeks. Last 2 weeks, Jory's 40 hours, Jack 38, Scrub 61. Meanwhile, you look at players like Jojo at 102.
Jesus.
Chicago 93. Every player on Championship Sunday had at least 65.
Yeah. That's tough, man, because not everyone is going to prepare in the same way, but you kind of can't lie like at that correlation. Oh gosh, Dignitas. How could a team so talented that does so well during the regionals have not made a top 4 in either? They 100%, if you consider like the regionals, they have been a top 4 team like in the world across the fall and the winter, but they have just I mean, this isn't even close. They're 3 games away. Oh god.
Yeah, not the best. But that takes us to the first games with a crowd in 2 years. And they are exciting ones.
Oh yeah.
We have FaZe versus BDS. And BDS got perfect swept for the second time this season.
They can't do it in front of a crowd. It's official.
They can't do it official. They can't do it in front of a crowd, and sometimes BDS just isn't there this year.
Yeah, that's the actual takeaway. And That's the part that actually seems like a problem. You know, a lot of teams, the sort of like the wheels fall off the train, but I don't think the wheels fall off the train for anyone else quite as hard as BDS. When the wheels fall off the train for BDS, like they fly to the sides, the whole train explodes, the tracks burst into flames, like the fire spreads to a nearby city, causes havoc. Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, I don't know. FaZe
How is
obviously played really well. And BDS played horrible.
how is the quote not even like what almost unanimously was considered the best team in the world coming into this tournament, also the only team to have been perfect swept twice this season?
Even Detonator didn't get perfect swept.
No. Detonator took a game off phase.
Detonator confirmed better than BDS.
Detonator would sweep them. Not perfect,
Obviously,
but they'd sweep them.
FaZe at this point in the tournament looked way better than they did on day one.
For sure.
All three players were playing well, and all three players at BDS were not, which, you know, has to do with it. You need both to get perfect swept in that situation. But yeah, not a good look for BDS. First ever game in front of the crowd, and they just did not get it done on the highest proportion.
They would not have won a single game during all of RLCSX if there were crowds. Not one. This is the first major that BDS have ever participated in that they haven't won, which like speaks to just the insane consistency they've had. But it's starting to get a little worrisome. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah.
I don't know what a change would look like for this team, but it's crazy to be even considering that.
I think they should stay. Obviously, they won the last major, but
Yeah,
not
probably.
the best year. But
No.
we'll see. They'll come out spring. They'll beat the top two team in EU, and they'll be back.
Until they have to play in front of a crowd.
Yes. Lower round 2, Queso swept Evil Geniuses, and at this point, you saw Queso beat NRG, one of the best teams in the world, and then they swept Evil Geniuses, who just beat Dignitas. And it was at this point where everyone was kind of like, Queso could make this a run. Obviously, a lot of work ahead of them, but this is
Also,
the point where you started to look ahead at what they'd have to do to get to the finals.
Yeah. And also at this point, a narrative we haven't really talked about much is with this win, Queso eliminated the only other European team left in the entire competition.
Yes.
Bringing it to 4 NA teams, 1 South American team, and 1 Queso team. Because at this point, I don't even consider them EU. They're just their own godlike entity.
Yes.
But EU was down bad, and Queso was going to do something insane to redeem anything for Europe.
Yeah. Yes. My brain doesn't work anymore. But upper semifinals, version 1 versus Space. No. Not this. Version 1 versus Space Station. SSG won the first 3 games. There were some, especially in game 3, I think it was. Space Station made some nuts saves in this series.
Yeah.
This was the Laniel coming out party. He played insanely well. Arsenal did not really have a great series, but
No.
Laniel picked it up. Rattles had a 5-goal game. Space Station was the better team in this series, earning their way as or NA5 to a guaranteed top 3.
Yeah. and like sort of tagging on the idea, like I feel like in the past, like SSG, like they do a lot to enable Daniel, but I don't feel like they've sort of like leaned on him to sort of like carry. And it felt like that's what this series was like. You're so right. The saves he was pulling out are just like something that, you know, very few people in the world can do. And then just the solo plays, the amount of, like, whenever he goes up in the air with like more than like 60 boosts, the amount of value he gets in terms of just like whether or not it's creating his own shot or creating for others is just almost unmatched. Like there's no fewer people scarier in the world on an air dribble. And just too many times V1 wasn't able to handle that.
Yeah, you could almost hear it in the crowd every time Daniel had the ball, that people were waiting
100%.
for something to happen.
Do you want to talk
but
about the rule one?
Torment's a rat, but we all knew that. If you go to the Twitter account, I think it's like out of context RL, and you scroll pretty far down to the bottom. There's a video of Torment breaking a rule 1 to score a goal in a ranked game. You know, he lives with Fireburner, the Rat King.
Yeah, didn't pay off here though. Absolute karma. No. Toss the series. Don't break your rule ones, kids.
I mean, strategically as well though, I would have taken Torment for Arsenal. Give me that beast mode combo.
Oh, for sure. They're dead.
Yeah. Furia G2.
I just kind of think that G2 were the better team here.
Yeah, I agree.
There wasn't like too much, like it wasn't even necessarily that Furia played bad or anything like that, but G2 just looked across the whole, like especially once the crowd came out, G2 just looked lights out pretty much the entire time, and this like never really felt like there was any chance of Furia winning the series.
Yeah, G2, you know, they played well this weekend. They were doing all right.
Let's wait a little bit before we jump to conclusions, okay? I'm trying to look at statistics and try and remember which in particular was sort of like the Yanks series. I think that he didn't do much offensively in this series, which is kind of shocking, especially like in the later ones. So he was really popping off. But Furia are, like, despite how good Yanks is, they are a very balanced team. All three players participate very much in everything they do. And this right here, like, just getting to this point was the best finish that any Sam team had ever had. So they were kind of playing with house money at this point. They had already won.
Yeah. Insane performance from Furia. Obviously, they would have liked to go to top 3, but I think that was a little unrealistic.
Yeah, just maybe.
But going down to the lower quarterfinals, Furia versus Team Queso. Furia put up a fight. Queso won the first 2 games 1-0. Then Furia came back to take the lead 3-2 in the series. I can now see timeouts called. So Queso called the timeout. Won game 5-1, or 6-1. Furia called the timeout, and then Queso had the ice, as they always do in game 7.
Yeah. This one felt a little bit like the BDS one, where it felt like Queso sort of took their foot off the gas, like just a little bit. Not obviously like they, thought they had won the series, but they like sort of gave Furia that little bit of space, and Furia took that, and it got. This is honestly probably the most scared I had felt for Queso up until this point, because once you sort of let Yanks get hot, I think it's very hard to calm him down, and he was going absolutely crazy in this series. But game 7, game 5, Queso's on the field. You already know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Whatever Nick said in that first timeout, they won the next game 5-1. So it clearly worked.
Yeah. Coach Nick with the God adaptations.
Yes. But Great series all around. A lot of mechanics, very fast. Really fun to watch. Less fun to watch as a V1 fan was version 1 versus FaZe Clan. V1 came out, won the first 2 games. Then FaZe won the next 3. V1 forced a game 7, and they did not have the ice, unfortunately. That one was sad.
Yeah. And it didn't even really feel like, sometimes after like game 3 is probably not probably is the most important game in pretty much any series, where like after 2 games the losing team should adapt. And it didn't even really feel like FaZe adapted that much, as opposed to they just decided to start saving everything. Like it felt like version was still
were nuts.
It felt like version 1 we're still creating like the same quality of chances, or we're still playing just as well. It's just that you have 3 of the most ridiculous mechanical players on FaZe that can just do so much defensively, and just the goal line saves just over and over and over again. Ruthless.
Yeah. But we did get one of the best goals of the tournament and one of the best caster calls of the tournament, with Jorby going, Beast Mode jumps from yesterday with an insane pass. Just nuts.
And something I know you don't necessarily want to relive or highlight, but First Killer's pass to AJ instead of taking the shot to win the series, I think is one of the best moments we've seen from this FaZe roster, where they constantly get criticized for choosing the solo play over the team play. And most likely First Killer would have gotten blocked, but he decided to make the very clever layoff to AJ and actually trusted him to hit top bins, which he did. But a sad moment for V1 fans, but a good moment for FaZe.
Yeah. What's up next? Upper bracket finals. G2 that was playing so well.
They kind of
They
spanked
beat
them.
Space Station 4-1. G2 just rolled to the grand finals.
Yeah, they were just too good on the day. Just such a dangerous 3-prong attack in G2.
Yeah.
you forget how good Chicago is watching this team play, and then it just like comes out and you're just like, holy crap.
Yeah, we were watching this, and like there's so much talk about Atomic and JNAPs that Chicago kind of got lost. And then 2 of these series at the 2 of like, I guess the upper bracket finals and the grand finals, Chicago really, especially the first series of the grand finals, it was Chicago who was kind of turning the team around a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout. It's like, I think a lot of like the most important like momentum changing moments come from Chicago, because he isn't like Atomic is constantly doing crazy unpredictable things, but like there's just like little sprinkles of Chicago's genius thrown in there.
Yeah. But yeah, G2 takes out Space Station. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then FaZe versus Queso, the rematch from Group A. Clearly the best group with 3 teams in the top 6. I don't remember this series.
The biggest thing to highlight from this one, and I know you're gonna remember it the minute I bring it up, but game 2, about like 15 seconds left, FaZe are up 1-0.
Oh.
Queso scores a 3-man flip reset passing play to tie it 1-1. And then another insane, maybe not 3-man passing play, but 3-man involved play at 0 seconds to win that game. And at that point, it was over.
Yeah. Although I would argue not the best 0-second goal of the tournament. I think I'd have to give that one to the calm pancake flip reset.
Oh my God. That was wild. Was that?
I don't remember who that was against, to be honest.
FaZe, maybe? I feel like it was game 1.
Game 1 of the FaZe series.
That was absurd.
Yeah. But Team Queso, insane mechanics all around. All 3 players played well. Yeah. Rise scoring everything.
Yeah. And they're just a better unit. Like the sum of their parts is better than the sum of FaZe's parts. Maybe even if
Team
not, like
Queso
maybe if the
is just a
individuals
better
didn't
version.
truly.
They're just better FaZe.
Yeah.
That brings us. So at this point, Team Queso has taken out Energy, Evil Geniuses, Furia, and now FaZe. They're coming up against Space Station. Geez, my brain doesn't work anymore. What happened in this one? Oh, this was possibly the most clutch save in Rocket League history.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Uh,
I-
the bumps in this series were nuts from Space Station. They were just bumping Queso all over the place. Queso kind of fighting for their lives in some of these games. Forcing a game 7. They were down again 3-2. Won game 6 pretty convincingly, and game 7 was a tightly contested matchup. Space Station was driving down the field with blockers in front, basically. But Rise got demoed. Fertira forces a 50 like on the goal line, but it's still going in. Rise respawns on the far side. I'm pretty sure he was pre-turning and just like guessed what side he was going to spawn on,
yep.
and drove and pinches it off the post out.
If
Just
if there,
nuts.
I think if there's actually one moment to watch from this LAN, I think it's probably that. Like any singular moment, like you said, that's like that's got to be the most insane save. Like in
Yeah.
terms of like stakes and everything considered, that's got to be like the most insane save in all of RLCS. And this was the best series that Space Station played in the entire tournament, where they looked great throughout. But Queso are just that good. All three players are just that good that it doesn't even matter.
I will say Space Station did kind of force a weakness in Queso, where if you can catch up to them and demo them, Space Station had a lot of open nets in this one. Whether them demoing someone off rotation or just clearing out the goalie, it seemed like every goal they scored, it was just no one in net, which
Yeah.
Atomic seemed to adopt for the grand finals.
Yeah. The only problem is there's pretty much no one else in the world who can demo as well as Space Station, and there are very few people in the world, Atomic probably being one of the only others, who can actually catch Queso.
Yeah.
But that
Queso,
was a bit of a blueprint.
yeah. If you can catch them and demo them, you can score. If you can't, good luck. And even
Yeah.
then, Space Station did it, and they still lost.
Yeah. That's just like replaying that save in my head. Just I can't remember a play in like RLCS of more disbelief. Like every single person in the entire world thought that Space Station had just tied it up with like 3 seconds left. Everyone thought that ball was in, and it was just like, why didn't the goal explode? like what?
That was crazy. And basically, this is Queso fighting for Europe's reputation. But I think I texted at the end to Austin, Queso is greater than NA, is greater than EU.
100%. I also, this is completely, not completely, but somewhat sidetrack. You said best, but one of the best calls in the tournament. I don't remember what series it was, but I was just looking and seeing like Stacks as the caster. In one of the Queso series, he said, "All rise, the Honorable Judge Finley Ferguson." And in this series, his call for the save was just incredible.
He's so good.
Which sums up Queso as a whole. They are the best.
Yeah,
They are
they're
the
so
best.
good.
They're the best.
That takes us to the grand finals: G2 Esports versus Team Queso. Series 1, Queso goes up 3-1 early, and I think if Queso closes this one out 4-1, they win this.
Mm-hmm.
But G2 wins game 5, wins game 6, forces Queso to call that timeout so that they can win Game 7, which they always do. And I'm not going to blame the no copium. I'm not trying to, provide copium here. Queso looked a little tired. They've now played like 50. They played 50 something games on the week.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's their fault for losing to version 1 in the group stage. But they've fought through an absolute gauntlet to get to this grand finals. They've beaten G2, and then they have to beat them again. And it looked like they kind of ran out of steam a little bit. But that I don't want to take anything away from G2, especially Atomic, who peaked in this second series. Atomic had like 8 demos in one game. They played so well. G2 absolutely deserved to win this tournament.
Yeah. And it felt like
they did.
It felt like every player on G2 kind of had their moment. Like we already sort of highlighted earlier, but I think it was game 5 in that first series was the Chicago game where he just pulled out just 2 ridiculous shots. One of them was like a redirect, like playing off the absolutely bizarre Rocket League physics where you can make the ball accelerate in the opposite direction that you're going. Ignore whatever. But it was just one of the most ridiculous like power shot redirects you'll ever see that just like turned the tide. And I think you're so right, especially sort of like tying into that fatigue. Like it felt like Queso had to use their regain like to save this first series, and they couldn't quite find that in the second one.
Yeah. There was also an absolutely nutty play by G2 where they like passed the ball like 6 times and then popped it like off the ceiling into a crazy dunk double. I don't even remember what happened, but it was nuts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. the most passes you'll ever see in one's own half in Rocket League. They have like 4 infield passes before they even make it past half field, and then Atomic like pre-jumped the dunk. It's just silly. Just G2 being silly.
Yeah, and seeing Rizzo put the medals on G2, it's just such a good moment.
Yeah, and I think the part that I kind of like about this is like we're gonna see Queso back, and like I'm not saying that we won't see G2 back, but it felt like G2 have worked so hard and sort of got robbed in the COVID year when they were playing some of their best Rocket League. It felt like this was like the culmination of a lot of things, and like this was a very deserving moment for G2, and like Queso, they'll have their chances in the future, and they've got time.
Yes. Also, for the first time since the Fall Regional 1, NRG is not top of the leaderboard in NA.
Isn't it by 1 point?
G2 is taking the lead by 1 point.
Gibbs is punching the air right now. So happy.
Yes. They made up almost 400 or almost 500 points in this one event.
That is crazy. And I mean, like, it feels for the first time too, like you could really make an argument for them not being the best team in NA in forever. Like, yeah. I feel like since like winter of last year, you'd be pretty silly if you said any team was the best in NA other than NRG. Like ever since Space Station died in the fall, in the fall of RLCSX, they've been number 1. Like other teams have sort of like been in that conversation, but you could make a very good argument that G2 are the best team in NA.
I think you go with it. They just showed it online in front of everyone that they can do it when it counts, and they could win worlds.
They can. And that sounds like some good old fashioned tier list content for us.
It does.
Later on. Because I feel like those 2 teams are sort of like in a tier of their own. And I feel like the top 5 is sort of like the next 3 have sort of created their own little pedestal as well.
Yes.
That was it, though. That was
the tournament.
That was LAN.
Do we want to do a word? So I know I didn't mention it before, and neither one of us have thought of one.
I mean, there's like 50 you could give out here. So much happened.
Should we do official awards? Official TCB awards, like MVP?
I'm down.
What were the old awards they used to do? They used to have some really weird ones.
I can't remember. We gotta dig back to like season 2.
MVP, because obviously the way they do it is you have to be on the winning team, I think, to win MVP,
Yeah.
which I still would have almost leaned JNAPs.
Yeah. No, I'd like to say like in the bottom it says like under the MVP thing it says like given to by RLCS analysts and community members or whatever. It was given to the award was given to Atomic by JNAPS. JNAPS like said like 10 times he's like tournament MVP Atomic.
You mean T-Bates or JNAPs?
JNAPS.
Okay, I didn't remember him.
No, he said it like when they got their medals. He said it when they did the interview at the desk afterwards. And then like after he said it like the third time, they like threw the graphic up. They're like, okay, fine. JNAPS is RLCS analysts.
Yeah. Also T-Bates is because I think T-Bates would have given it to Atomic even if G2 went 0-3.
The machine.
The machine. This guy loves the machine. I'm trying to go back through. They used to do some really like, I guess they were season awards, not tournament awards.
Yeah,
they were
I'm
like
looking the World Championships. It's just like
MVPs.
day 1, day 2, day 3, which we also could do. I think that'd be pretty fun.
All right, day 1 MVP. No, I've lost.
Golden Striker, clutch playmaker, savior of the season.
Oh, all right. We can see savior of the season because it's just kind of a tournament. But we could do, was it clutch and golden striker?
Yeah, it was just most goals and most assists, but we could also flip that.
Well, golden striker clearly goes to Rise.
Yeah.
I would also like to throw his hat in the ring for MVP. Over 1 goal a game in 54 games played.
Let's do days. That way we can sort of like give different people their flowers.
Day 1 MVP, beast mode.
I think that's a very fair nominee.
Are you going days or stages?
I guess
group stage.
Group stage.
Group stage, playoffs, and then championship Sunday.
Yeah. I think beast mode, Saiku had some top tier moments, but I think the fact that they didn't win sort of like takes that away from him.
JNAFs and Arsenal, I think, are my other 2 nominees.
100%. I think the group stage MVP, in terms of like, if you think about it just in terms of most valuable player, it's got to be beast mode, because I don't think V1 come close to what they did in their group without him on their team.
Absolutely. I mean, they beat Team Queso, who obviously made the Grand Championship, and then FaZe, who are another top 4 team.
Mm-hmm.
They played great. Secured themselves the top 6, which I don't think they would have gotten if they'd gone into the lowers. So obviously massive for them.
Yeah.
Day 2, which isn't really day 2, I'm gonna unofficially announce it as lower rounds 1, 2, and quarterfinals, as well as the upper semis.
Yeah. I think Daniel, purely from that performance there. I think I think if you're going to give Rise a shout out, I think now's probably the time.
Rise, first killer could even be in here.
I would definitely put first killer in there, especially if you consider the lower quarters. Were any of these series ones where Rise in particular pounded? I'm trying to remember, because there were some series where he just scored everything. Was it the NRG series?
No, that was a Vatira series.
I think it was against FaZe, right?
Yeah. I think he did well against FaZe.
He scored against everyone.
Yeah, he had 1.2 goals a game against FaZe.
Jeez. 1.2? You got to be kidding me. Oh man.
I mean, he had on the entire tournament, he had 1.04 goals a game.
That's just silly numbers for
Golden
52
striker to
games.
Rise. What
Yeah.
was the assist award?
Clutch
And is that a
playmaker.
total? Is that total or per game?
I got lost in the sauce. Give me a second. I can find it again.
Because if it's total, it's Joyo. If it's per game, it's Monkey Moon.
Assist per game.
Monkey Moon. Clutch playmaker.
If we were doing it
Closely
purely off heart, I would say clutch playmaker. I'd give Golden Striker to Rise and clutch playmaker to First Killer.
Yeah.
By definition.
Although he had the least assists of anyone on his team, I think.
But in terms of clutch,
find him on this list. Oh, there he is. He certainly is clutch. Savior of the season, savior of the tournament was Mikan.
Also, dark horse for MVP.
Of any of the teams in the top 6, it would be Daniel.
That seems slightly more correct.
Followed by Monkey Moon, Kaio, and the Torment.
Okay.
But day 3 MVP, I think you gotta give it to Atomic.
Yeah.
He carried the grand finals and the upper finals, I think.
Yeah. But tournament as a whole, Natman.
I'd give it to Naps just because they won, but close second to Rise.
Yeah. I think you can make the case for both teams, and I think it just sort of depends on the result and whether or not we have a bracket reset format.
I think that's all we got.
I think so too. We can finally put this garbage format to rest. I can't get that mad because it produced an insane tournament with an insane lower bracket run. But weird group stage into very strange playoff bracket. You will not be missed.
In the next split, we just have a 16-team double elimination bracket.
Good old fashioned esports.
Should be interesting.
I got nothing left.
I'm dead.